Since 1944, when delegates from 44 countries gathered in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, to create a new system of international monetary exchange. The US dollar has been the world's reserve currency and, as such, the most powerful currency in the world. However, this new currency is finally under attack as the BRICS bloc, a group of emerging economies consisting of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, now seems to be working towards building a unified currency of their own. From the Chinese government's desire for control over investments to the implications of a common BRICS currency, today we'll be covering why the BRICS currency will never work and how it stands to affect the world we live in today. The United States dollar has long been the world's dominant currency. This is because its use as a reserve currency is deeply ingrained in the global financial system, making it the most commonly used currency in international trade. But then, how did the dollar achieve this position of supremacy among hundreds of different world currencies? Well, the story begins in the aftermath of World War II, when the US emerged as the world's preeminent economic and military power. And due to this, in 1944, delegates from 44 different countries gathered in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, to create a new system of international monetary exchange. It was the result of this Bretton Woods Agreement that established the US dollar as the world's reserve currency and tied its value to gold at a fixed exchange rate. Under this system, other countries would hold US dollars as reserves, and the US would maintain the value of the dollar by redeeming it for gold at $35 an ounce. But why was the Bretton Woods Agreement needed in the first place? Well, see, it was created to help create a period of unprecedented economic growth and stability in the post-war era. But sadly, it was not without flaws. However, that will be covered in another one of our videos. Now fast forward to current times, and the dollar still seems to be standing strong as recent years have seen a rise in the dollar, which has sparked a glimmer of hope among emerging markets. And so if the dollar still stands strong, then why are the BRICS gunning for a new world currency? Well, see, the BRICS countries are trying to rely less on the US dollar and be less affected by changes in US interest rates. A problem that was only reinforced by the Federal Reserve's decision to raise interest rates in 2022, which essentially showed just how much the global economy is actually tied to the US and just how difficult it would be to create a new world currency. To make matters worse, the US response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine, which included strong sanctions that deeply affected the country, could only stand due to the world's dependence on the dollar and has raised concerns about how to build a financial system that is not dependent on the West. So essentially, the BRICS are not only tired of the US's reach and unmatched power, which they in turn get from the world's dependence on the dollar, and so they figure out how to change this by simply challenging the dollar with a new world currency, which in itself makes perfect sense as it would serve as a checkmate to the US and drastically reduce their non-military might. The world got to learn of this news in June 2022, when Russian President Vladimir Putin made it known that the BRICS were hard at work developing a shiny new reserve currency. This currency is believed to be based on a delightful basket of currencies that would be used by its member countries. Putin's foreign minister, Sergei Lavrov, later revealed in January 2023 that this world-changing topic would be on the agenda at the BRICS summit in South Africa come August's end. However, all is not as it seems, as the statement from Russia was likely more of a display of subservience to China and a sly attempt to undermine the US. Nonetheless, the idea of a common BRICS currency is not just limited to Russia, as even the Brazilian president has expressed some support for the idea, and Brazil is even working on a similar project with Argentina, so the idea or threat, depending on how you see it, of a new currency is as real as can be. At the moment, some suggest that the BRICS could fashion a reserve currency similar to the IMF's special drawing rights, SDRs, which are based on a basket of leading currencies. However, the SDRs are much more diverse, with an underlying basket consisting of roughly 40% dollars and 30% euros among other currencies. And so it's unlikely that any BRICS equivalent could achieve such a level of diversity. But that isn't the major problem, as contrary to popular opinion, the BRICS aren't all that useful when it comes to economics. Why? Well, the issue lies in its very nature. as it's simply the combination of an economic superpower like China with a potential one like India, plus adding in 3 commodity exporters that at the moment are essentially stagnant. As you can see, the economies of these countries are vastly different in terms of trade, growth, and financial openness. For example, Russia's economic performance has been decidedly lackluster when compared to the other BRICS nations. Meanwhile, Brazil and South Africa have struggled to prosper without the support of strong commodity prices that keep interest rates low and domestic credit rising. And so, the BRICS bloc, which by the way was a term coined in a 2001 Goldman Sachs paper and referred to a group of 4 countries with rapidly growing economies, which at the time were Brazil, Russia, India, and China, is essentially a lie. See, it might surprise you to learn that, interestingly, China accounted for half of the bloc's gross domestic product at market rates at the time of its creation. And today, according to the most recent data from the IMF, it accounts for a staggering 73% of the bloc's GDP. In fact, since 2003, the BRICS bloc's share of global output at market prices has risen from 8.4% to 25.5%, with China alone accounting for 14 of the 17.1 percentage point rise, which essentially makes it easy to think of the infamous Enver Hoxha quote about the combined population of Albanians and Chinese being a quarter of the world's population as shockingly accurate. To make matters more sketchy, China's dominance in the BRIC bloc is further underscored by its role as a key trade partner for commodity exporters, whose economic cycles are heavily influenced by the Chinese credit cycle. And perhaps in an even more scary turn of events, following the recent attack on Ukraine, China's financial influence over isolated Russia has only increased, making China's rise to economic dominance in the BRICS bloc a truly important trend to watch. This is because, at the moment, it's clear that the Chinese strategic interests don't necessarily align with those of the other countries in the BRIC bloc. In fact, China's top priorities include finding safe havens to stash their external surpluses beyond the reach of the U.S. Office of Foreign Assets Control and diversifying their stores of value beyond U.S. Treasury bonds. And while the other 4 BRICS members may not be able to provide liquid assets, they do present promising investment opportunities, particularly in raw materials. However, as is the case with the Belt and Road Initiative, the Chinese government prefers to maintain a firm grip on matters of investment and control. Meanwhile, Russia and Gulf energy exporters prefer to stockpile sovereign wealth funds for future emergencies, preferably far away from U.S. influence. But the truth is, the alternative to the U.S. is not a diverse group of burgeoning economies, but rather a single country with a massive appetite for energy and raw materials, which in this case is China. As a result, there are practical challenges to establishing a common BRICS currency. Moreover, the non-Chinese members of the bloc may inadvertently increase their reliance on Beijing by seeking to challenge U.S. hegemony in foreign exchange. So, while the BRICS bloc may seem like a promising partnership on the surface, it's important to recognize the potential pitfalls and that, in the end, this currency is not the savior of the BRICS, but rather just a transfer of power from the US to China. But what do you think? Is the new BRICS currency the way to go? Or is it just a ploy for China to gain more power and stand up against the West? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you liked the video. And while you're at it, why not watch this video on how the BRICS plan to challenge the petrodollar? The answer will truly shock you. Until next time, bye.